Hey guys, so welcome to my vlog. I am excited to use this website and this opportunity to just be able to talk through a couple of the things that I've been thinking about as I'm reading here some of these books on teaching writing. Today's vlog specifically deals with Bean's book, Engaging Ideas, and specifically the first two chapters. I love critical thinking. I actually had the opportunity to teach a debate course at my institution where I get to actually help students just understand what critical thinking is. Now, that course is targeted towards helping students that are maybe thinking about law school or even grad school to be able to develop research skills. But we do spend a lot of time actually talking about what critical thinking is. And so I definitely agree that all writing and all courses should really help a student engage critically in their writing process. I specifically liked on page 5 how the writer here provides us a list of 8 different principles for designing a disciplinary course that supports critical thinking. But he actually goes and just really hones in on 3 principles. And I quote, he states, "A good critical thinking course presents students with problems, questions, or issues that make a course assignment-centered rather than text or lecture-centered, and hold students responsible for formulating and justifying their solutions orally or in writing." I think that's really interesting because it does have like those 3 major components. One, that idea of like problems, questions, or issues. So he talks about like when you are assigning something, maybe not just make it, like a prompt or a topic, but actually give them a question or a problem to think about. And that can already engage a student in actually thinking through the topic versus just being assigned a random topic to inform on. But I also like this idea of the being assignment centered rather than text or lecture centered. That's interesting because that is a really good way to actually measure whether a student is actually understanding the concepts we're trying to teach them. And so that actually points me to chapter 2. Under chapter 2, I really loved how he was talking about teaching thinking through teaching revision. So I think as English teachers, one of the things that we really strive to get our students to try to do is revision. You have to revise, you have to revise, you have to revise in order to create really good products. I like this quote that he talks about to encourage this kind of global revision, the idea of helping students revise their papers. He says that he often tells students that a C paper is an A paper turned in too soon. And that's an interesting concept, this whole idea of how revision can actually help a student think critically. I like how he talks about that oftentimes students think that they're revising, but they're actually not revising. They're more just editing their paper, checking spelling, grammar, stuff like that. Versus, maybe more expert writers or people like us that we would actually be looking at the content of our paper. This idea that drafts are actually very messy. Sometimes they are the ones that actually help us discover or develop or modify our own ideas. And so maybe like when we're like actually thinking we're going to write about something, a draft would lead us into the actual thing that actually we end up writing about. And so it's kind of interesting because I guess in my own classes, I definitely want to incorporate more help through the revision process. I do like that he gives a very thorough 15 suggestion list for encouraging revision. Some of those are very, very informative and great resources for us to be able to use as teachers. I guess probably the biggest question that I would have about revision and critical thinking is I think as researchers and as scholars, we had to think about how exactly do you help a student individually think through their project. Because I know like with discussion in group and even like if we meet with them one-on-one, it's easy to kind of get that going, but giving them tools to be able to do it individually of themselves. And I think the way I could answer my own question is really, I like in one of statements that he makes is that you have to kind of help the student change from thinking of themselves as a writer, but actually the reader. And so I think that that is something, again, to that question of like, how do we help students engage in that editing process of critically thinking through their papers, is helping them just realize that when it comes to actually reading their paper for a revision process, they probably also need to be looking as a reader, not just a writer. So those are my thoughts, just thoughts from my reading. Hopefully that all makes sense. And yeah, I hope you all have an awesome day. Bye-bye.